All right, welcome back, everyone. So thank you for your presence today. My name is Patrick. I am one of the co-founders of MEDFAR Clinical Solutions, and I will be your host for today's session. Just a quick overview of the agenda first. So, welcome everyone, and thank you again. We'll go into the details of how this webinar works and what are the objectives of today's session. We'll then give each other a brief overview of what's new with this new version of MYLE. I'll then give you a guided tour, so a hands-on tour of the new version of your electronic medical record. Then I'll speak a bit of the deployment strategy, since that's a question that's been coming up a lot in these sessions. So I'll take some time and explain that, and then we'll spend all the time that is required for me to gather your questions, and then I'll give you all the answers. So, first of all, how this webinar works. So the objectives are as follows. It's to show you the feature first of what will be available, and also describe the main differences that distinguish this version of MYLE from the other versions of MYLE that you've seen along the months and along the years. The total duration of this session will be of 60 minutes, and by experience, my presentation is somewhat shorter, so you'll have 40 to 45 minutes of presentation, and then you'll have 15 to 20 minutes of question and answers. So please use the questions section to share your questions, and I will do my best to read and answer all the questions during the webinar. But if it's not possible for me to answer all the questions, then you can be sure that I will follow up with you either by email or by telephone. So how would you write a question or send a question to us? Well, you have to localize the little orange arrow that should be on the right side of your screen, and then once you click on that, you will see the questions section that should pop out, and then this is where you answer your question. Then you click send, and then I will see the questions live as they come in, and I will only answer them, however, towards the end of the session. Now, frequently asked questions are as follows. Is this session recorded? The answer to that question is yes. So we will be taping all our clerical and medical sessions, and the best of which will be made available to all our clients. So keep an eye out. We'll be notifying you in the coming days as to where you'll be able to find them, either on our website, on our support portal, or even through MYLE. If you want to find more information, then I encourage you to read our letter from the founders, which can be found at support.medfarsolutions.com. So my co-founder Elias and myself, we took some time to write a little letter to describe the orientations of the company and what are the short to medium term goals. You can also write us an email at info@medfarsolutions.com, and you can be certain that if we do get any questions or suggestions in that email inbox, then you will receive an answer shortly. I will remind you that our webinars are online until April the 8th, and I think we've added a session on the Sunday the 9th. So we give 4 webinars a day, both clerical and medical sessions. So if you want more information, or there's some parts that you missed or that you had to skip, you can feel free to enroll yourself in another session, and these are available until April the 9th. So, what's new with this version of MYLE? Well, the first thing is that it's brand new technology. So finally, we're getting rid of Silverlight. For those of you who don't know Silverlight, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what it was. So Silverlight was the technology that we used in 2010 when we founded this company to make sure that our electronic medical record would be available online. So it's a Microsoft developed plugin that we used to make sure that everything was available through the web. But as time progressed, we saw that in 2015 we saw Google Chrome stop supporting Silverlight, and then over the course of 2016 we saw Firefox progressively stop supporting Silverlight as well. So this is what explains the crashes, the slowness, the freezes sometimes, or and makes it such that it's not the most enjoyable experience for the moment to be using this plugin. So that was our first goal, was really to get rid of that and make sure that we had an electronic medical record that was at the state of the art and still available online, and that's what we did. One of the things that we are bringing with this version of MYLE as well is compatibility with mobile devices, so iPads, Android, or whatever have you, you'll be able to access MYLE directly from your tablet. So MYLE not only is available now with all browsers, so whether Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, etc., but it's also available directly from your mobile device. One little precision that I would like to make is that we recommend a minimal resolution of 1440 by 900, which is the equivalent of a third generation iPad. So concretely, if you've bought your tablet after early 2014, then you should have no trouble accessing MYLE and then being able to see all the information that we have to display in a manner that makes it such that it's usable. Other things that I want to specify is that this version of MYLE, as you'll see, is up to 16 times faster. So performance, I think, was a critical issue that we wanted to address. And so in our control environments, we saw that with this version of MYLE, we were able to reach speeds and performance improvements of up to 16 times. So we're very excited about that. It's also an application that, given that there's no more Silverlight, you will see is much more stable, robust, and reliable. So I think these are characteristics that are key to any electronic medical record solution. So we have to make sure that when we click on a button that the information is sent, or when we do request information, we want to make sure that we do receive it. So that's something that we're also very excited to bring to the table. And finally, this new version of MYLE is to be considered more like a platform that is very easily extensible and interoperable. So what do we mean? It's that you will see with this new technology, we're able to be much more nimble and bring in all the improvements or the suggestions or the corrections that you are asking of us much quicker. And it's also much more interoperable in the sense that it's going to be able to connect with either governmental projects such as Rendez-vous Santé Québec, for example, but will also be used in conjunction with a series of other products that we're bringing to the market before the end of the year. So I'll just give you a brief overview of what these products are. And so the first thing that you will see is that we're going to be bringing in the upcoming months an option for online booking and appointment confirmation. So this will allow your patients to request appointments online and receive confirmation emails or confirmation notifications for these appointments directly online without having to be put in the receptionist queue or things like that. So that's something that will be much appreciated, I think, from the receptionist standpoint, but as well as for the patient. We're also putting in place an information exchange platform between doctors, so it'll be possible for a doctor using the application to send, let's say, a summary of the file or any form that was filled or the list of active medications or whatever to another doctor, even if that doctor is not using MYLE, all in a way that is secure, that respects the confidentiality of the patient, and that is very easy to use. The last point is, the last point on the top row is the patient portal. So I'm very excited to tell you that the patient portal is currently in pilot phase with one clinic. And the patient portal, what it is it's a combination of the online booking and appointment confirmation. So patients will be able to book their confirmations online and receive, book their appointments online and receive their confirmations as well. But it's also a communication platform that will allow the clinic to share information with the patient as they see fit. So it's really a portal that is for the clinic, not for the patient, like Rendez-vous Santé Québec. It's a tool that allows the clinic to communicate more efficiently with the patient and share notes, summaries, documents, lab results, whatever. And it's the doctor and the nurse and the secretaries, of course, are the ones who decide what is shared through the portal. And it's in a manner that is secure, again, and that respects the confidentiality of the patient. So it's really a great tool that sort of brings in the patient into the healthcare equation and that empowers them to take control of their health. So it's something that we're very, very excited to bring to the market. The next little item here that we have is the web fax. So the web fax will allow you to send and receive fax directly through MYLE without having to access or without having to install anything on the computer or without having to purchase any additional hardware for the clinic. So directly from MYLE, whether you're renewing medications from your laptop, your desktop, or your iPad, you'll be able to send those prescriptions, for example, directly to the pharmacy without having to print a piece of paper and then send it by fax. So again, this is something that will increase the efficiency of the clinic and will make it much more agreeable. The last point I want to speak with you about is business intelligence, or in more layman terms, reporting and statistics. So as you know, MYLE is a very rich platform where a lot of information is entered regarding patient demographics, patient attendance to appointments, and even patient medical information. So that a list of diagnoses, of medications, of allergies, etc. And I think it's time that we start exploiting and mining these data in order to build reports, not only to measure patient attendance and the list of patients that are enrolled to a doctor, but also to start measuring quality of care, maybe conciliation reports between vulnerable patients and what's at the RAM queue. So this is a whole brand new department that we've built this year, that is spearheaded by one of my colleagues, Mr. Maxime Nault, and we're very excited to start bringing this to the market and give you a platform that not only includes baseline reports, but also provides you with the ability to build and share your own dashboards very easily. And for those clients who will want that option, you'll also be able to benefit from the very advanced reports that Maxim and his colleagues have built. So that's something that we're also very excited to bring to the market, and we hope you'll be able to enjoy these very soon. Now, without further ado, let's dive in to our application. So, when you access the application, the first thing you will see is that you will land on this page. So, you see that here on the left, we have the same information that you're used to seeing, so your username and password. Whereas here on the right, you will have something that's a little bit different, and it's a section that we'll use to communicate more efficiently with our clients. So I think communication is extremely important. So if you want to know what's coming up in upcoming versions or any announcements that we have to make, you will see them on this right-hand section here. This is also where you will see the founder's letter, and if ever we're planning an event, or if ever we're giving webinars such as this one, then you will see the list of all the upcoming activities that are taking place, and you'll be able to register for them, see more details, and etc. So keep an eye out for this. You will see we will try and update that as soon as we have new information. But without further ado, let's access our electronic medical record. And the first thing you will see as I hit enter is the speed at which we got connected. So as I said, you will see up to 16 times enhancements and improvements. And I know in the list of attendees we have doctors who work at very large clinics that are related to a CIUS, and for which the login is sometimes a bit painful. And I think you'll appreciate the performance enhancements that we bring here very much. You will also see that once you log in, it's not something that is completely different. So it's your calendar, and you're used to seeing your calendar. The color codes are the same. It still presents your patients for the day. So it's not something you will be lost in. It's something that you're familiar with. So you'll be able to make that transition to this new version very easily. You will see on the top that you still have access to all the modules that you have access to in the Silverlight version. But you will see that even with this being said, that there are still some improvements and some changes that have been made, and we'll get into these right now. The first thing I want to show you is somewhat of a philosophical component to this version of MYLE, and it is this little icon here on the top right. So this little emoticon, when you click on it, allows you to give us feedback very efficiently as to what you're seeing, what you just experienced, what you lived, and will let us know if it's something that you enjoyed or if it's something that you did not enjoy so much. So whether be it a bug or a problem in the workflow where you have to click too many times to get to the information that you are looking for, this allows you to send us information directly from the application without having to open email or pick up the phone or things like that, and will allow us to see exactly what you lived and be much more proactive into bringing the modifications that you requested. So for us, it's very important that the enhancements that we make to MYLE are in line with what our users want and I think this is something that allows, at least from your side, to send us the information, and you can be certain that on our side, as we receive these, we go through these every day and we make sure that they're organized and orchestrated so that upcoming versions of MYLE tackle these. That was the first thing. Now, in the calendar, the major change that has been made has to do with navigation. The first thing that you'll see on the bottom left here is that we have a calendar that's already open on which we can click to navigate from one date to the next without having to click multiple times to get to the date that we want. You'll also be able to enter the date here or go back to today's date very easily. On the top right, your settings icon has not changed. Your list of doctors hasn't changed. This is now where you can print your list of the day, so it's not on the bottom of the page anymore, it's on the top right. These arrows still allow you to go from one day to the next without a problem. And some changes have been made here. So the day view hasn't changed and the week view hasn't changed either. What has changed, however, is the way with which we represent the month view. So if we click on the month view, you will see that, we don't show you sort of a mishmash of all your patients anymore where it's hard to tell who's who and who's going where, but you will see color codes that will let you know very quickly what days of the month you're completely booked and which days of the month are still available for your patients to book appointments. So you see here, for example, on the 27th of March, I was completely full and I saw 15 patients, whereas on the 6th of April, I'm full and I have 13 patients to see. But everywhere where you see blue are days where there are availabilities. So I can see, for example, that on the 3rd, on Monday, I'm seeing 15 patients, but I have 5 slots that are available. So if you are the type of doctor or nurse or professional who gives the follow-up appointments to your patients yourself, well, this will make it a lot easier to find an applicable slot. So you can simply click on the day that you want to go to. We'll show you the availabilities, and then you can book the appointments right then and there. So I think this is something that a lot of our users were requesting, and we're more than happy to finally bring it into MYLE. Let's go back to here. Before getting into the appointment details into the patient's file, there's one little enhancement that I want to show you as well, which has to do with the search. So the algorithm in searching is still the same, so you'll be able to find your patients with the same level of ease. However, if you have multiple patients that have a first name and the last name, and then the doctors would want to know, well, which one of these patients is the one that is registered under me? Now the advanced search results, they will show you just that. So not only do we show you all the information that we have on file for these patients, but we also show you the physician's name under which these patients are enrolled. So we're sure that when you access the file, you access the correct file, and no errors are made there. So that's again something that a lot of our clients were asking. Now, let's move on and talk a bit about the appointment details. So as I told you earlier, the color codes have not changed. Patients that are in yellow are still patients that are in consultation, whereas patients that are in blue are your patients that are in the waiting room. And to show you what the appointment details look like, so we click on an appointment. You will see on the left that the information hasn't changed. The only thing is it's a lot more efficient now to make changes either to the state or to the subject. So we're saving you one click there. And on the right, you have all the patient's information that is now neatly presented on the right, and that's more properly organized, so you can see exactly who the patient is, what their phone numbers are, etc. And then accessing the file is still the same thing. It's still clicking on the patient's name, and then we'll bring you directly to the file. And I think to everyone's relief, you'll see that a lot of things have not changed. So the alerts that are there will still pop up to let us know of any preventive care measures that are to be taken for that patient. Let's just click on OK. And then let's just admire for a little minute the medical summary. So if you have access to the clinical portion of the file, the medical summary is still the first thing that you'll see when you access the patient's file. You will also see on the top that the patient banner has not changed much. It still shows the patient's first name, last name, and the gender. You'll see the RAMQ information, the file numbers, etc. What has changed now is that we will show you multiple phone numbers at once. So instead of you having to dig through the file and find the phone numbers that are applicable, will show you the patient's preferred phone number first, and then the second phone number there. So this will make it much more efficient to get into contact with your patients. The banner still shows the patient registration information as well as the next upcoming appointment, as well as for doctors who do print their own labels to label their forms or what have you, you still have access to that here. Two little things that were added to the banner are the functionality that we see here that allows us not only to write a memo, change the picture, or deactivate the patient, but also directly from the patient's file, send a message or a task. So without having to go through the communications module and then selecting your patient and writing up the message, it's not possible. As you access the patient's file, wherever you are in the patient's file, you'll be able to send a message and a task directly without having to open a note. Another change that has been made is this little icon here on the top right. So for the moment, what this icon does is that it allows you to print the medical summary and it allows you to print the notes. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like if I click on it. So you'll see that it prints the medical summary of the patient's file. But eventually, and as we release subsequent versions of MYLE, you will see that this little button will grow in functionality and will allow you, for example, to build your own summaries of the file so that they can be either printed or sent by fax or shared with the patient. So it is through this icon that eventually you'll be able to select the documents that you want to send to the patient. Or, for example, you'll be able to build a list of notes, the medical summary, the medication summary, some documents, some lab results, package that into a neat little packet, and then send it either by fax or print it or share it through the patient portal. So keep an eye out for that. I know it's a request that we've been getting a lot, and it's just a matter of time before it's finally implemented in this new version of MYLE. Apart from that, you will see that on the right, your modules haven't changed, so you can still book appointments through this first tab here. You can still view the patient's appointment history, the messaging and the tasks that were sent related to this patient are still here. The documents have not changed much. We'll get to that detail later, and the patient profile is still there. These have some little changes that I will show you, so I'll skip them from now, and let's just spend some time here in the summary so I can show you things that have changed in that regard. You'll see that the left portion of the medical summary has not changed much. It still shows you the list of all the notes that took place for your patient. You will see, however, that we've added an icon here, which will filter the list of consultations only to show you the ones that have not been approved. So if you are the type of doctor that works with a resident at either a CIUS or at a teaching establishment, it happens that some of the notes are not approved yet. So as you access the file, clicking on this will only show you the notes that are not approved, that are not approved, and you'll be able to access them, make the modifications, and approve them as you wish. Apart from that, the search still works the same way, so it will search for anything in your note, and that hasn't changed there. So a lot of the changes have been made, however, in the list of problems. So as you probably know, we have a medical advisory board that gives us a lot of information as to what the summary should be, what the list of medications should look like, and what should MYLE be used for, and how it should meet those needs. So one of the things that they wanted us to add was to change the categorization of the problems and not only have active problems and then medical and surgical history. And we did just that. So you now have active problems, you have medical history, surgical history, psychiatric history, and obstetrical history. So this allows you to better categorize your list of problems. And of course, if you want to change the categorization, well, all you need to do is just drag and drop the items, and then we'll categorize them for you. So let's say that we want to take the partial colectomy here and bring it down to the surgical history. All you'll have to do is just drag this, drop it here, and then you'll see that it's now in the surgical history. Same thing for the obstetrical history. Let's bring it down here. Let's bring the anxiety disorder right here, as well as the borderline personality disorder down here. And then we're left with a list of problems on top. And by the way, you can use the same functionality to order your problems by priority. So if you want to say that the hypertension should come first, that's exactly what we'll do. And now, of course, every time that you access this patient's file, you will see the list of problems exactly organized in the way that you left them. On the top right here is the list of active medications, and as you can see, some changes have been made here as well. Now, the list of active medications is no longer the list of names of medications that are comma separated, but they're actually medications, so the full medication name, as well as the dosage information, which was something that is extremely important and that is currently lacking in the actual version of MYLE. And if we are connected to the DSQ and if we have that information, then we'll also show you the number of renewals that were prescribed, as well as the number of renewals that are remaining. So you will see all of that in a tabular format, and we can guarantee you that the medication that is there is the medication finally that is active, not just any random medication. So that is something that is very appreciated, and that was also stressed quite intensely by our medical advisory board. You will see then that the allergies and intolerances, the visual representation of them has changed. I'm sorry. You will see that it's now a lot easier to distinguish an allergy from an intolerance from an adverse reaction. So this is something that will make it a lot easier as well. And then with regards to social habits, alerts and special needs, and immunizations, no major changes have been made there. It's still something that you'll be familiar with. But in the family history, you will see that the representation is a lot more representative of what you're used to seeing, what you were used to seeing in your paper charts or before you made the move to the electronic medical record. So you will see the family history represented in a genealogy, I would say. So you have the relationship with the patient here on the left, and then you will have all the diagnoses that afflict that member of the family on the right. So you can very easily see in this example that the mother suffered from breast cancer, migraines, and colon cancer. The father is a type 2 diabetes. He has dyslipidemia, depression, and you will have the siblings information here on the bottom. So it's very easy for you to interpret that and see it. In terms of the vital signs, not much has changed except from the fact that the waist circumference has now been brought up to the summary because of the preponderance that it has taken in our client's medical notes. So it's an important piece of information that we show in the summary now and allows you to make better decisions. So this covers the medical summary and the changes and improvements that have been made there. Before I show you some more improvements in our pediatric patients, I would just want to show you how easy it will be now to print the list of active medications. So let's say you access this patient's file, you see the list of medications here, and you want to print it. Well, it's very simple. You simply access the medications module here. You click there. We'll show you the list of medications, and to print it, well, it's very simple. You simply click on the print icon, and it will show you the list of active medications that incorporates the start date, the end date, if we have that information, and how it's taken. And if we have entered any duration or instructions, then you will see all of that there. So it's going to be very easy for you to do that, and then either fax it, share it with the patient, print it. You will do as you wish in that regards. So let's close this file, and let's now access our pediatric patient's file, Mr. Ladouceur, who's a little baby, a 5-month-old little baby. We see here in this example that there is a unknown side note here on the left, and as you can see by clicking on this icon, that's what I see. And before I get into more detail, I wanted to say a little something. So I know it's hard to believe, but sometimes doctors do make mistakes and they open multiple notes when they're accessing the patient's file. So this leaves you with a patient that has a number of notes that are not approved or empty, and then you have to write the empty note and then save and approve them. And it was something that cluttered the patient's file and was not something that was necessarily fun to see and nice to watch. So what we do now, if there's already a note that is open and you're trying to create a new note, well, MYLE will intercept that request and will let you know that you already have a note open on this patient on a certain date, and we'll ask you, do you wish to continue from your previous note, or do you actually wish to start a new one? So this will allow you to continue the note as you wish, or if you're actually starting a new one, then you will be able to do that then and there. What I wanted to show you for this patient, however, is the growth curves. So let's access this module here, which is the reporting. That still shows you by default all the vital signs, but let's hide those for a moment and let's see what the growth curves look like. So here you see that the growth curves have changed a little bit. They are now the World Health Organization, the updated ones, the updated charts, and they are from 0 to 2 and then from 2 to 19 years old. So these have changed. You will also see that we now graph directly on the curve the percentile, so that you don't have to geometrically interpolate or do whatever you do to calculate the percentile. You'll be able to give the parents the percentile right away, and that's very easy to see and very agreeable as well. These are the rest of the curves. And now another change that has been made, and again a request that we had received multiple times, was to be able to print these charts and then give them to the parents. This will be doable from the little icon here that we have on the top right. So if we click on that, you will see that we print not only the growth chart with the percentile on them, but we'll also print you the information that was entered, and you will have all of the growth charts here that you can give not to your patients, but to the parents of your patients, or even share them through the portal, so that the parents always have the latest updated values for their growth charts. So there you go. That's it for that. Let's close this patient file and then let's access a patient that has no history. So again, we can show you the modifications that were made in terms of the clinical note. So we accessed Miss Page's file, and then as we can see that there's no other information there, we're going to start a new note by clicking on New Note. And then as you can see, the disposition of the new note hasn't changed much. It still shows you the note information on the top, then the medical summary, the progress note, and then forms, assessment plan. Those follow as before. The changes that have been made to the medical summary are quite significant. The first of which pertains to the medical history here. And the changes to the visual, well, now we allow you to categorize a lot more in a much more simpler manner the problem or the diagnosis that you're entering, or even the procedure. But also, as we said a little earlier, MYLE is rich of information, and it's important as you start building reports and as you start wanting to report on your data, that the diagnoses and the procedures, they be coded. And then it's not always easy to use the ICD-10 dictionary that we had implemented, but this version of MYLE makes the search for problems and diagnoses a lot simpler. So if, let's say, our patient had breast cancer, and then we didn't know if it was coded as malignant tumor or a neoplasm or what have you, well, now if you just type breast cancer, and then you will see that the dictionary recognizes what you want to mean and allows you to click on it, and then that's coded, and then you can simply save, and that's there. So no more headaches as to, is it a neoplasm, is it a tumor, is it whatever. It's there, it's coded, and that's good. Now for allergies and intolerances, the changes that were made are pertain to the efficiency with which it's now possible to enter all the information there. So you can see that whereas before we were sort of forcing you to click on Save Plus for every allergy that you wanted to add, it's now possible for me to search for in the same dictionary for an allergy, but now I don't need to go Save Plus. I can simply add right away another allergy, let's say lactose, and then one last one just to show you something else by accident. So now you can see that if you're searching for a medication to say that there was an allergy or an intolerance, well, we won't force you to choose one specific drug strength or formulation. You can simply say that, well, my patient had an allergy to Biaxin, and then as you save, these three items are saved separately so they can evolve separately, and that was the goal, the main goal. Social habits shows the same improvements of efficiency, so no more Save Plus. Every time you click, you'll be able to very easily click on the information that you want to add, and then you can also, of course, do a combo of things that were clicked. Oops, sorry. Things that were clicked, and then things that are typed, and then as you click on Save, then all of these will be saved independently. In terms of alerts and special needs, as we saw a little earlier, there were no significant changes there. Family history does present some changes. So you first select now the relationship, and then you can enter the diagnoses one by one for that same relationship without having to save plus again every time. Sorry. So you can very easily and quickly build the list of diagnoses for the family members, and then when you save, of course, these are all then in there. Immunizations have not changed, and neither have active medications with what pertains to the entry of them, but I'll just show you what they look like now in the medical summary section of the note. And now those attendees that have known me for a long time will see that my repertoire of medications haven't changed much, but that's for the purpose of this example. I think that's good enough. So you will see that as I add the medications, they are no longer a list again of the names of the medications with the posology in between parentheses, and they're all comma separated. They show in tabular format, which is something that is much more similar to what you're used to seeing when you consult the DSQ or when you receive the list of medications from the pharmacist that you have to renew. So these are improvements that were made there to make your life a little easier. Vital signs haven't changed much, so I won't speak about those, but I'll just go into the detail of the progress note. So the progress note allows you to capture the same field, so the same reason for visit, the HPI, the exam, etc. Those of you who will be using MYLE with your Android tablets or your iPads, you'll be able to use voice dictation with your devices, either to write your notes or your comments on the documents or your tasks and the communications. You'll be able to dictate those, and you'll see that the fidelity to the medical vocabulary is quite impressive. Otherwise, you can still type whatever you want in these boxes, or you will be relieved to know that the clickable text is still there for you to select. The disposition is a bit better, and you will also see that the way that it presents no longer hides the field where you're entering the information, but always presents beneath the field, so you see exactly what you clicked on. In terms of the handwritten notes, some changes have been made there where let's just allow the webcam. So it's still a canvas that our users can use to either draw with their fingers or their stylus or whatever if they have a touchscreen, or like I just did using the mouse. You can still add your backgrounds if you wish, if you have backgrounds of a colon or of the breast exam, so that you can annotate that. You'll still be able to do that. But now for our patients for our clients who did not have a touchscreen but still wanted to be able to take a picture of a rash or a lesion or use a background picture but write text on it, well, it is now possible for you to add a text box. So let's click on this icon here, and then let's say I want to add some text here. I can add my text, and then when I say that I'm done, you will see that it'll be part of whatever was there before, and then when I click save, of course, that will all be taken into the note. So that's a little improvement that was made there that will make, I think, this handwritten notes module a lot more usable for all our clients. Now, in terms of the rest, not much has changed. I will say, however, that for the forms, there have been not only changes in the performance of the forms, whereas they will show a lot faster, but those of you who do CSST forms a lot, well, you now have the possibility with this version of MYLE to electronically send your forms to the CNESST, so that you don't have to print 3 or 4 copies of the form and then give them to your patients. They will all be sent electronically to the CNESST to make sure that all the forms are there and then that the payment can be made. But let's now spend some time in the prescription module. So let's click here and see what we have. So you will have on the left the list of all the active medications that are there. So you don't have to juggle between the summary and the list and then to try and decipher the color codes or things like that. What we show you are the active medications. For those of you who want to see the full list of medications, let me remind you that it's still available through this module here. Now, in terms of renewing medications, it was already pretty easy in the current version of MYLE, but now it's become a lot easier. If you want to renew everything, well, that's one click away. You simply click on this button here, and the medications have been renewed. Now, if you've made a mistake and you want to remove a medication that you've inadvertently renewed, in the current version of MYLE, it was pretty tedious to go through all the clicks and then say that you made a mistake, but there's nothing tedious. Everything is simple with this version of MYLE, where you can simply click on this little X, and then as you can see, I have undone what I had done. In the example that I want to do with you, I just want to show you how easy it'll be to interrupt medication and to change the dosage of another medication. So what we'll do is that we'll interrupt the Altase, and then we'll augment the Lipitor to Lipitor 20, just so you can see how easy that is now. So let's click here, because we're not renewing, we're interrupting. So let's say yes, it's interrupted, continue, and that's it. One click away, it was interrupted, and that clearly shows on the right-hand section. For the Lipitor, let's click this again. We're not going to interrupt it, we're going to augment, and then you'll be able to choose the medication that replaces the Lipitor 10 directly from the pop-up without having to launch another search or do anything like that. So let's click on Lipitor 20, and then let's continue, and then you will see very clearly in your prescription that the Lipitor 20 has been prescribed because the Lipitor 10 has been augmented as of today. Of course, we still show you the default dosage. You can change the number of refills. If you have a number of refills by default, you can do that there. And then when you click on preview, then you'll have a very neat prescription that does not take up any more than like half your screen or things like that. It's very neatly organized. Of course, this version of MYLE also allows you to reorder your prescriptions if you want to, so that you can group similar molecules and then give the pharmacist or the patient a prescription that makes a bit more sense. I want to spend some time also showing you the improvements that have been made in terms of the search of medications. Now, of course, anyone who has ever tried to prescribe 10,000 units of vitamin D to one of their patients has sooner or later fought with our search bar. But now it's a lot easier. If you want to prescribe vitamin D, well, you simply type vitamin D. We'll show you the vitamin Ds. And then if you want the 10,000 units, you simply add 10,000 units, and we'll show you exactly that. And you can then click on this, and then it'll add the default dosage with my default number of refills, and then you'll have that then in there. Also, for those of you who have one search for amlodipine, for example, but not amlodipine and atorvastatin, and then all we showed you was the combo of the two, well, now that has been fixed. So you will see if you search for amlodipine, then we'll first show you sort of the base prescriptions for amlodipine, and then you will have all the possibilities for the generics. So again, this is thanks to our medical advisory board. We've decided to first show you only the baseline ones, and then you can, if ever you really wish to say that it was AG or APO or AVA or whatever, then you will have the list of possibilities there. So selecting a medication still brings you the option of either consulting the monogram in Vigilance Santé or seeing if there are more information that we can bring you here. So that has not changed. Let's just click here and add the amlodipine. I also wanted to show you, for those of you who did not know, that MYLE is still integrated with the exception medication. So if you're prescribing a medication that has an exception code that needs to be written for the patient to receive the medication without having to pay, well, you will see that this icon here states clearly that, and then when you click on it, then you will see the codes that apply and all the information there. So you can simply click on the code, and that'll prescribe the medication right here on the right. Let's just add another medication just so we can see that on the bottom the alerts are still there. You've probably noticed that they are a lot quicker to compute, so again the performance enhancements here are quite notable. So if that's all good, let's just remove the Biaxin because we know our patient is allergic to it, and let's focus on what we see here on the bottom right. So you now have two options. The first one, the Prescribe button, does exactly what your Prescribe button does in the current version of MYLE. It takes those medications and then it brings you back to your consultation. But more often than not, when you prescribe something, it's because you want to print it and give a handout to the patient so they can go to the pharmacy. And now we allow you to do both at the same time. So you can prescribe your medication and launch the printing by clicking on the print button, and you'll see that the prescriptions are there and that the printing sheet is up. And now you can either print that or decide to fax that. Those doctors that have enabled the electronic signature of their prescriptions will also be able to sign them electronically and then fax them right away to the patient's preferred pharmacy. So let's remove that, and as you can see, you have the prescription information very neatly organized here so that no mistakes are made. This covers this first portion of what I wanted to show you of the patient's file. Before we continue, before we jump to another module, what I want to do is I just want to show you, because it is a question that we're very often asked, is how can we adjust the medication without having to prescribe that the medication was augmented or reduced if that medication was modified by one of our colleagues who does not work at the clinic. So in this case, let's assume, for example, that the Xarelto has been increased by the cardiologist and that the Lipitor has been interrupted. All right. So before you had to go all the way down here and then click on the little plus and do your thing. Whereas here it's going to be very easy. Your nurses or whoever has access to the note will also be able to assist you with that. If you click on this little thing here, we'll show you the list of medications. And if you want to remove a medication from the active medication list, for example, the Lipitor, or you simply go to the active column, click on the no, and then the Lipitor is gone. And if you want to say that the Xarelto has been adjusted, you simply click on update. It will say that we are going to say that it has been augmented to Xarelto 20. You're going to continue. So you will see that that has been updated as well. And when you go back to your note, you will only see the medications that are active. So this is a lot quicker, a lot faster, and it's not as complex as it was before. And I think this is something that is going to be very appreciated by our clients. So that does it for the medical record. I'm going to spend just a bit of time in the communications module just to show you some enhancements that have been made. The first enhancements that I want to show you pertain to the grid. So anywhere in MYLE where you see a grid, you will again see the search bar and these two icons, but now your settings icon shows a little extra icon on the bottom left here that allows you to configure the columns that are displayed in your inbox. So let's say you want to bring the patient further down and you want to remove who it was sent to. Let's save that, and then you can see that only the information that we want to see is the information that is seen. And this version of MYLE also will remember the column widths that you attribute to each of those columns. That way, once you've set everything up and then you log out of MYLE and you log back in, we'll show you your inbox exactly the same way as you left it. So that's something that's very, very important for our users who have been asking for that improvement for a bit of time. The other improvement that have been made for the moment is that usually when you send out a task or a message to a group of either nurses or professionals or things like that, and they want to notify you that the work has begun, but the task isn't completed yet. What they would do actually is that they would just reply to your task and saying that, okay, I've tried contacting the patient, for example, and I left a message with the husband. But then that would very easily and very quickly just clutter your inbox of messages or tasks and would make it such that the follow-up is a bit harder to make. So what we have added now is an extra column here that says action that allows anyone that has access to the task, so either you who have sent it or the people who have received the task, they can now leave each other little messages that will let everyone know that, for example, we've contacted the patient and left a message. So submit, and then that way we won't have to send a new task or reply to it. You'll be able to see very easily what actions have been taken and who was responsible for that. So this is something that is going to make life a lot easier and will declutter your inbox. So that's for communications. Now, before I have two more things to show you. The first one is the documents. So I'm just to show off the speed a little bit. I'll just import all the documents of the clinic, and you can see that in terms of speed, it's a lot quicker than what we had before. But in terms also of how they're managed, some improvements have been made in that regard as well. So first thing that you will see is that well, the disposition is the same, but now in order to access the document, it's no longer necessary to aim the cursor on the very right at the little attachment icon. You can simply click anywhere on the line, and then we'll show you the information. All right, so that's improvement number one. Improvement number two is as you're writing a note on the document, there are some changes that you'll be able to make. So sometimes what happens is that people who scan the document, they improperly index it in terms of the class and the subclass, or give it a wrong description. Now you'll be able to modify that directly from the grid by clicking on this little plus here. So you can see you can change the class and the subclass, change the description as well, and you can also leave your comment directly here. So as you're doing all of that, you can submit, and well, that section has not changed. You will always be able to see the comments that have been made. Now, one last thing that I want to show you that is going to be very, very useful for anyone who's using MYLE on a computer or on an iPad Pro is you'll be able to split your screen very easily to view the document and make all the annotations that you want. So I'll show you that very quickly on a computer. So I'm using a Windows computer, but it also works on a Mac. It's a bit different, and if you want, I can show you exactly how it's done. So when I click on this little icon here on the line, I'm sorry, you will see the document, and then let's say that I just want to send this document to the right-hand side of the screen. What I do on my Windows computer is I hold down the Windows key and I press the right arrow, and that sends it to the right. And then when I release the Windows key, then we ask you, well, what do you want to see on the other section of your screen? So let's say that I want to see MYLE. So I click on MYLE, and then we have the information there. But as you can see, it's all mishmashed, and I would like MYLE to take up a little bit more real estate on the screen, and that's also very easy to do, where you simply put your cursor in the middle section here, and you bring that to the right so you can see more information in MYLE. And then when you let that go, well, you'll always see the document on the right and MYLE on the left, and then you can very, very quickly iterate from one document to the next without having to juggle through a bunch of windows or through tabs or things like that. So it's something that will make document review a lot quicker, a lot more efficient, and I think it's something that you'll appreciate a lot. Let's close this up. Let's bring this back here, full screen, and let's just, before we're done, show you improvements that have been made in the results. And to do that, what I'll do is I'll just go back to my Mr. not Ladouceur, I'm sorry, it's my Mr. What's his name? Jean Anouette. Perfect. So Mr. Anouette has results in his results section here. The changes that have been made to the results, they pertain mostly to performance. So the disposition of the information, I'll just click on one so you can see. The disposition of the information has not changed much. You'll see all the information here, and then you'll see you can still write a note on the right. You'll still see the additional information, the abnormal and critical observations that are still gathered on the top, and then this hasn't changed. What has changed, as I was saying, is just the speed with which I can go from one result to the next. As you can see, there's no more eternal loading wheel or things like that. It just very quickly snaps to the next result and allows you to manage your results a lot quicker. Let's close that. And this is that does it for the guided tour. Before opening up the floor to questions, I'm just going to explain to you how this version will be deployed, as it's a question that very, very often comes up. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that this version of MYLE covers the current operations of the clinic. So when we deliver this, we want to make sure that it does at least what your current version of MYLE does. So how do we do that? Well, this version that I just showed you is used by 14 or 15 of our pilot clinics who are using exclusively this version to book their appointments, to make their notes, their prescriptions, review their labs, etc. So we know that at least this version that I showed you does exactly the same thing as the Silverlight version of MYLE. And then what we want to do is we want to make sure that all our clients have access to the version. So you still log into Silverlight, but you'll be able to click on a button and then access the version 3.0 of MYLE, and then you can chart your node and you can try doing doing everything on that version there. This requires, of course, the approval of the clinic, especially for those clients who are affiliated to a CIUS or who are in a public establishment. That's something that will be required. And then we'll go for a full-on operational deployment, where what that means is that now when you double-click on the MYLE icon after step number 3, you will not be taken to the Silverlight version of MYLE, but you will be taken to MYLE 3.0 directly. So when you log in, you'll be logging into the new interface, and you'll be doing your work and reviewing your files and doing whatever you have to do in this new version of MYLE. So again, of course, this requires the approval of the clinic that will have to tell us, well, all our users are ready, let's go for it, and let's deploy it. We will ensure, I think it's something that was stressing out a bit of clients, is that we will ensure backwards compatibility with the current version until the summer of this year. This means that if ever you're working in the MYLE 3.0 and then you're not sure that the information that you entered also shows in Silverlight, or you're not sure that the information that you entered in your current version of MYLE shows correctly in the HTML5 version, well, we'll give you these two versions up until the end of the summer so you can make sure that all the information is there, or if you have a little bug or whatever, then you can still be productive in the old version of MYLE. This, of course, will force us to hold back on some new functionality that we won't be able to incorporate because it would break that backwards compatibility. This functionality includes, for example, allowing our users to make changes to the medical summary without having to write a note. Well, we have to hold back on that until the end of the summer, just so that we make sure that we don't break anything in the process of that. So this is something that unfortunately we have to go through, but this will make sure that the transition from the current version of MYLE to MYLE 3.0 is one that is graceful and that will be done very efficiently and very quickly. And then finally, step number 5 is we'll make sure that we deploy HTML5 fully to everyone, and we'll make the Silverlight version of MYLE obsolete, so that we can concentrate on bringing these new functionalities and bringing the patient portal and all of that into the equation.